This is the story of Justin Cole, whose life was tragically ended by a twisted affair that spiraled out of control. Justin Cole was just 18 years old, full of dreams and hope for the future. He lived in Plano, Texas, a quiet suburb of Dallas. Justin was a senior at Plano High School, where he excelled in both academics and auto shop. He had a real passion for cars, spending hours working on engines and dreaming of one day opening his own auto repair shop. His friends often saw him with grease-stained hands, tinkering with old cars in his driveway. Justin lived with his grandmother, Alice Cole, a woman who had gone blind and needed his daily care. Despite his age, Justin took on the responsibility with maturity far beyond his years. He balanced school, a part-time job at a local garage, and caring for his grandmother, all without complaint. People in the neighborhood often commented on his kindness, noting how he always made time to help out anyone who needed a hand. Justin had been dating Paulette Mitchell for 2 years. Grace, also 18, was a smart, driven young woman who shared his dreams of a bright future. They talked about getting married after graduation and starting a family. Justin often saved his money to take Grace out to nice places like Rick's Chop House, where they would dream about their future over a nice meal. The couple was inseparable, and everyone expected them to have a long, happy life together. But beneath the surface, there was a dark secret. Justin was having an affair with Grace's mother, Paulette Mitchell, a 43-year-old woman who ran a multi-level marketing company called Beauty By. Paulette was attractive and successful, but she had a complicated relationship with her daughter, often competing with her for the attention of men. Justin's affair with Paulette was a secret that weighed heavily on him, and it complicated his life in ways he hadn't anticipated. Despite his dreams and plans, Justin's life took a tragic turn. His secret affair would soon lead to a shocking and violent end, leaving the community of Plano stunned and his loved ones devastated by the loss of a young man who had so much potential. On the morning of August 12, 2021, Plano was already feeling the oppressive summer heat. Around 8 a.m., Justin's grandmother, Alice, noticed something was wrong. Alice, blind and dependent on Justin for care, hadn't heard him moving around the house that morning. Worried, she called out to him, but there was no answer. She sensed something was off, and despite her disability, managed to dial a neighbor, Bethany Carter, for help. Bethany, a retired nurse who lived just 2 houses down, rushed over. She had known Justin since he was a little boy and couldn't imagine anything being seriously wrong. But as soon as she stepped into the house, she felt a chill. The living room was eerily quiet, and there was an unusual metallic smell in the air. Bethany called out to Justin. The house remained silent. She followed the scent to Justin's bedroom. As she pushed the door open, the sight before her was unimaginable. Justin's lifeless body lay sprawled on the floor, practically floating in his own blood. He had been brutally stabbed multiple times, and his eyes were almost gouged out. The knife, still soaked in blood, was on the floor beside him. Bethany froze in shock, her hand trembling as she dialed 911. Her voice, usually calm and reassuring, was shaky as she reported the scene to the operator. "Oh, Sheriff, there's blood everywhere," she stammered. Within minutes, police and paramedics arrived at the modest 1-story home on Westbrook Avenue. Flashing lights and the crowd of neighbors who gathered outside added to the surreal atmosphere. As the first responders entered the house, they were met with a gruesome scene that would haunt them for years. Bethany, who had initially tried to stay calm, was now visibly shaken, leaning on another neighbor for support. Alice, still in her chair in the living room, kept asking what was happening, unaware of the horror just a few rooms away. The once quiet neighborhood was now the epicenter of a brutal crime, one that would leave everyone reeling. The Plano Police Department arrived at Justin Cole's home within minutes of Bethany's 911 call. Leading the investigation was Detective Kevin Daniels, a seasoned investigator with over 20 years on the force, known for his no-nonsense approach and dedication. Daniels was a respected figure in the department. He was joined by Detective Chloe Hernandez, a younger, sharp-minded officer with a keen eye for detail. As they entered the house, the crime scene was immediately overwhelming. The once cozy bedroom was now a gruesome sight. Blood spattered the walls and floor, creating a chaotic pattern, told the story of extreme violence and desperation. The smell of iron hung thick in the air, mixing with the oppressive heat of the August morning. Justin's body lay crumpled on the floor, brutality of the attack evident from the multiple stab wounds and the near gouging of his eyes. Kitchen knife used in the attack, common but deadly weapon, was found beside him, covered in blood. Detective Daniels, despite his years of experience, couldn't help but feel a knot in his stomach Detective Daniels believed that the brutal murder of Justin Cole was a crime of passion. As Detective Chloe Hernandez began photographing the scene, she carefully documented every detail. They collected evidence meticulously, ensuring that nothing was overlooked. The knife, blood patterns, and any fingerprints were all carefully recorded. Forensics would later analyze these to piece together the sequence of events. As they worked, the detectives also noted the state of the rest of the house. The living room, where Justin's grandmother Alice sat, remained untouched, a stark contrast to the horror in the bedroom. This indicated that the attack was swift, catching Justin off guard, possibly during an early morning routine. Outside, the neighbors had gathered, murmuring among themselves, trying to make sense of the tragedy that had struck their quiet community. Detective Daniels knew the importance of acting quickly. He assigned officers to canvass the neighborhood, hoping someone might have seen or heard something unusual. In a close-knit place like Plano, where everyone knew each other, there was always a chance that someone had noticed something that could break the case wide open. First suspect on Detective Daniels' list is Paulette Mitchell, the mother of Justin's girlfriend, Grace Mitchell. Paulette, 43 years old, had always been the center of attention in Plano's social circle. She was known for her striking looks and her successful multi-level marketing company, Beauty Buys, which sold cosmetics and skincare products. Some locals whispered that her business was a scam. Paulette dismissed the criticism, enjoying the financial rewards and the spotlight. Paulette had a complicated relationship with her daughter Grace. While they appeared close, friends noticed an underlying tension between them, often stemming from Paulette's jealousy of Grace's youth and beauty. Paulette had a habit of competing with her daughter for attention, especially from men. This rivalry took a dark turn when Paulette began an affair with Justin, her daughter's boyfriend. The affair was a closely guarded secret, known only to the two of them, as it was the kind of secret could destroy lives. Paulette justified the relationship as a way to reclaim her lost youth, but it was clear to those who knew her that she was becoming dangerously obsessed with Justin. When Detective Daniels and Detective Hernandez brought Paulette in for questioning, she was visibly shaken, but tried to maintain her composure. She dressed impeccably in a tailored pantsuit, her makeup flawless, but there was a nervousness in her eyes that didn't go unnoticed. The detectives started with routine questions, asking about her relationship with Justin and her whereabouts on the night of the murder. Paulette claimed that she had been home alone, working late into the night on her business. Her voice was steady, but there was an edge to her tone when asked about Justin. She described him as a beautiful boy, but downplayed their relationship, referring to him as just her daughter's boyfriend. However, as the questioning continued, her mask began to slip. When Detective Daniels pressed her about the affair, Paulette's demeanor changed. She became defensive, answers short and clipped. She denied the affair at first, but when presented with evidence, Paulette broke down. Tears streamed down her face as she confessed to the affair, but vehemently denied having anything to do with Justin's murder. "He was my angel boy," she cried. "I swear on my life, I would never hurt him." Despite her emotional outburst, Detective Daniels wasn't convinced. Her obsession with Justin and the intense jealousy she harbored toward her daughter made her a prime suspect. The second suspect in the investigation was Grace Mitchell, the 18-year-old daughter of Paulette and the girlfriend of Justin Cole. Grace was a bright, ambitious young woman who had just graduated high school in June of 2021. She was looking forward to starting college in the fall, with plans to study business management at the University of Texas at Dallas. Friends and family described Grace as kind-hearted, but sometimes overshadowed by her mother's dominant personality. Grace and Justin had been dating for 2 years, and by all accounts, they were deeply in love. They had even talked about getting married after Grace finished high school, a plan that had excited both of their families in the conservative southern town. However, the revelation of her mother's affair with Justin shattered Grace's world. The discovery of the betrayal left her heartbroken and furious, but she claimed that she was innocent of any involvement in Justin's death. When detectives brought Grace in for questioning, she appeared emotionally drained. Dressed in jeans and a t-shirt from her high school senior class, she seemed much younger than her age. Almost childlike in her grief. Detective Daniels and Detective Hernandez began the interrogation gently, asking her to recount her relationship with Justin and how she found out about the affair. Grace's voice trembled as she spoke, her eyes filled with tears. She described how she had accidentally stumbled upon sexually explicit texts between her mother and Justin, few days before his death. The discovery had led to a heated argument between her and Paulette, Grace claimed she had tried to move past it. "I love Justin, and I didn't want to lose him," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. However, when asked about her whereabouts on the night of the murder, Grace's story became less clear. She insisted that she had been at a sleepover at her friend Lily's house, just a few blocks away from Justin's home, but she struggled to provide details about the evening. Lily, when questioned separately, confirmed that Grace had been there, but mentioned that Grace had left around midnight, a few hours before the estimated time of the murder. As the detectives pressed Grace further, her demeanor shifted from sadness to defensiveness. She denied any involvement in Justin's death, but the anger in her voice was evident. "I would never hurt him," she repeated, though her hands trembled as she spoke. When shown evidence of the affair, including Paulette's explicit text sent to Justin, Grace broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Her grief was raw, but it also raised questions. Was she crying out of loss, or was there something more she was hiding? Despite her emotional state, Grace maintained her innocence throughout the interrogation. She admitted to feeling betrayed and angry, but insisted she wasn't capable of murder. However, her unclear alibi and the intensity of her emotions left Detective Daniels with lingering doubts. The third suspect in the investigation was Samuel Mitchell, 47-year-old father of Grace Mitchell and the husband of Paulette Mitchell. Samuel was a successful lawyer, known locally for his sharp legal mind and his ability to win difficult cases. He was well known in Plano for his dedication to his career, but also for his tendency to be absent from home. Due to his demanding work schedule, Samuel was a man who valued appearances. He took pride in maintaining a picture-perfect family image, even if it meant turning a blind eye to the troubles brewing under his own roof. While Samuel was often away at the office or in court, he wasn't entirely oblivious to the tension and jealousy between Paulette and Grace. He had his suspicions about Paulette's behavior, particularly her inappropriate sexual interest in other men, but he chose to ignore it, hoping it would resolve itself. When the police called Samuel Mitchell in for questioning, he appeared composed, dressed in a crisp white shirt and tie, as if preparing for a day in court. Detective Daniels and Detective Hernandez started the interrogation by asking Samuel about his relationship with his wife and daughter. Samuel described his marriage to Paulette as complicated, but insisted that they had a strong bond. He claimed that his relationship with Grace was also on good terms, though he admitted that they weren't as close as he would have liked, partly due to his long work hours. Detectives then shifted the focus to Justin Cole. Samuel admitted that he liked Justin and thought he was a good match for Grace. However, when confronted with the affair between Justin and Paulette, Samuel's demeanor changed, clenched his jaw and avoided eye contact, clearly uncomfortable with the topic. He claimed that he was unaware of the affair until after Justin's death, stating, "If I had known, I would have put a stop to it immediately." The detectives pressed Samuel on his whereabouts on the night of the murder. He stated that he had been working late at his office, reviewing a case file for an upcoming trial. He provided the names of colleagues who could vouch for his alibi, but his tone was defensive. Samuel's response to the interrogation was calm, but distant, giving the impression that he was holding back. As the questioning continued, Samuel maintained his innocence, insisting that he had nothing to do with Justin's death. However, his reluctance to discuss the affair and his apparent detachment from the situation left the detectives uneasy. Was Samuel truly ignorant of his wife's actions, or was he hiding something to protect his family's reputation? Despite his calm exterior, Samuel's evasiveness during the interrogation raised suspicions. Detective Daniels and Detective Hernandez couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to his story than he was letting on. On a scorching afternoon in mid-August 2021, police received a tip that would change the course of the investigation. It was around 3 p.m. when Detective Daniels' phone rang. Caller, who wished to remain anonymous, claimed to have critical information about Paulette Mitchell, one of the key suspects in Justin Cole's murder. The tipster hinted at something more sinister than just an affair, a secret Paulette had been hiding for years. The detectives wasted no time. They drove straight to Paulette's office, located in a small, nondescript building on the outskirts of Plano. The sign above the door read Beauty By, the name of the multi-level marketing company Paulette had been running for nearly a decade. From the outside, the office looked like any other small business, but inside, the detectives would uncover a shocking twist. As they entered the office, the detectives were struck by the eerie quiet. The place was filled with beauty products, shelves lined with creams, lotions, and makeup, but there were no employees in sight. Detective Hernandez noticed a locked door at the back of the office. After some persuasion, Rachel Thomas, Paulette's nervous assistant, reluctantly handed over the key. Behind the door was Paulette's private office, and what the detectives found inside was both disturbing and revealing. The walls were covered with photographs, many nude, of Justin, most of them sexually explicit and inappropriate. In one corner, there was a makeshift love shrine dedicated to him, complete with candles, trinkets, and handwritten notes. It was clear that Paulette's obsession with Justin had gone far beyond a mere affair. But that wasn't all. As the detectives searched the office, they stumbled upon a stack of documents that exposed the dark side of beauty buys. The MLM scheme was not just a business. It was a scam that preyed on poor women, many of whom were single mothers struggling financially. The documents revealed that Paulette had been exploiting these women, convincing them to invest thousands of dollars in beauty products they couldn't sell, while forcing them to work up to 20 hours a day to pay off their debts. The financial strain had ruined hundreds of lives, leaving these women in despair. The discovery of Paulette's fraudulent business practices provided a new motive for the murder. Paulette's world was beginning to crumble, and the pressure of maintaining her image, combined with her obsessive love for Justin, may have driven her to kill. With this new evidence, the police had a clearer picture of Paulette Mitchell, a woman who would do anything to protect her secrets, even if it meant committing murder. On August 21, 2021, the police were finally ready to make their move. After piecing together the evidence, including the disturbing findings at Paulette's office, they had no doubt about who was responsible for Justin Cole's brutal murder. Paulette Mitchell, 43, had become increasingly obsessed with her daughter's boyfriend, leading her to commit an unthinkable crime. On the night of the murder, Paulette confronted Justin in the kitchen of his grandmother's house, a place Justin had taken Paulette to have sex many times. Fueled by jealousy and the fear of losing control, Paulette grabbed a kitchen knife and stabbed Justin multiple times. The attack was vicious, leaving him with deep wounds and nearly gouged out eyes. After the murder, Paulette tried to cover her tracks, but her obsession with Justin and her fraudulent business dealings eventually led the police straight to her. The arrest took place in the early morning hours of August 21st. The police arrived at Paulette's upscale home in a quiet suburban neighborhood just as the sun was rising. They knocked on the door, and Paulette answered, still dressed in her silk pajamas, clearly not expecting visitors. The detectives calmly informed her that she was under arrest for the murder of Justin Cole. Paulette's reaction was a mixture of shock and defiance. She tried to maintain her composure, but the police could see the panic in her eyes. As Paulette was handcuffed and led to the police car, her neighbors watched in disbelief. Many of them had admired Paulette for her business success, not knowing the truth behind her glamorous facade. The news of her arrest spread quickly through the community, and by the time the police car pulled away, the streets were buzzing with gossip. Back at the station, Paulette was booked and placed in a holding cell. The detectives interviewed her, but she denied everything, insisting that she was innocent. However, the evidence against her was overwhelming, and the police were confident they had the right person. The arrest brought a sense of relief to Justin's family, who had been living in fear and uncertainty since his death. The case was far from over, but with Paulette Mitchell in custody, police were one step closer to achieving justice for Justin Cole. Trial of Paulette Mitchell for the murder of Justin Cole began on November 8, 2021. The case had drawn significant media attention, with local news outlets covering every detail. The courtroom was packed with spectators eager to see how the case would unfold. Prosecution was led by Assistant District Attorney Mark Tremble, a seasoned lawyer known for his tenacity in the courtroom. Tremble, 52, had a reputation for being thorough and relentless. And this case was no exception. From the outset, he painted a damning picture of Paulette as a woman driven by jealousy and obsession. He argued that Paulette had brutally murdered Justin in a fit of rage after he tried to end their affair. Using the physical evidence and testimony from investigators to support his case, Tremble also exposed Paulette's fraudulent business, Beauty Buys, as a scheme that preyed on vulnerable women, adding to the portrait of her as a manipulative and dangerous individual. On the defense side was attorney Charles Chuck Lemoyne, a sharp and experienced lawyer with a history of defending high-profile clients. Lemoyne, 48, was known for his calm demeanor and ability to create doubt in the minds of jurors. He argued that the evidence against Paulette was circumstantial and suggested that someone else, possibly Grace Mitchell, could have committed the crime. Lemoyne tried to humanize Paulette, portraying her as a loving mother and successful businesswoman who had been unfairly targeted by the media and prosecution. However, the evidence against her was damning, especially with the detectives' testimony detailing the disturbing shrine to Justin in her office and the fraudulent business practices of Beauty Buy. As the trial progressed, the emotional toll on Justin's family was evident. His grandmother, Alice Cole, who had raised him, attended every session, clutching a worn photograph of Justin. His girlfriend, Grace Mitchell, sat with her father, Samuel Mitchell, both of them visibly shaken by the proceedings. The tension in the courtroom was palpable, especially during the testimony from the lead detective, Kevin Daniels, who detailed the gruesome nature of Justin's injuries and the evidence linking Paulette to the crime. On November 22, 2021, after 2 weeks of testimony and just 4 hours of deliberation, jury returned with their verdict. Paulette Mitchell was found guilty of first-degree murder. The verdict was met with tears of relief from Justin's family, while Paulette remained stoic, though the color drained from her face as the word guilty echoed through the courtroom. Punishment was handed down on December 1, 2021. Paulette Mitchell was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentence was a harsh but fitting end to a case that had shocked the community. For Justin's family, the verdict brought a sense of justice, but the pain of losing him would never fully heal. The trial had also exposed the dark side of Paulette's business, leading to further investigations into Beauty Buys and its practices. The sentencing marked the end of one chapter, but it left many in the community reflecting on the tragedy and its lasting impact. After the trial, life in Plano, Texas, slowly returned to normal, but the shock of Justin Cole's murder lingered in the community. The once bustling Mitchell household became quiet. Paulette's life sentence left a void in the family that was hard to fill. Her husband, Samuel Mitchell, a successful lawyer, tried to maintain a sense of normalcy. The scandal and loss weighed heavily on him. He continued his work, but withdrew from social circles, avoiding the curious stares and whispered conversations that followed him everywhere he went. Grace Mitchell, Paulette's daughter, struggled to move forward. The revelation of her mother's affair with Justin and the brutal murder had shattered her world. She left Plano shortly after the trial, enrolling in a college out of state to escape the painful memories. Though she tried to focus on her studies, trauma was never far from her mind. Friends said she became more reserved, no longer the bright and ambitious girl she once was. The aftermath of the trial also had a significant impact on the broader community. Beauty Buys, Paulette's multi-level marketing company, came under intense scrutiny. Investigations revealed the extent of the financial and emotional damage caused by the company, leading to its eventual shutdown. Many women who had invested in the business were left in debt, their lives upended by the scam. Local news outlets continued to cover the fallout. The scandal became a cautionary tale about the dangers of predatory businesses. In the end, the trial and its aftermath left a lasting mark on everyone involved. It was a tragic reminder of how quickly lives can be torn apart and how the consequences of one person's actions can ripple through an entire community.